What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another video here on CFL Central. CFL content for the fans, by the fans. Now, free agency frenzy, day 1, opened up today on the 8th. You guys will be watching this video on the 9th, which is day 2, so there's probably more signings kind of already happened. We'll be covering them after, so don't worry. If you see a name that isn't in this video, we'll cover it at some point. But nonetheless, there are a lot of players that have been moving around. All 9 teams have been very active. We've seen a lot of different players moving around, some re-signing as well. But for the majority, a lot of new faces going to different teams next year. And I am, for one, kind of excited about that. I always like the shake-up in the CFL. It's one of the more fun, unique things that happens. I definitely don't think for the player standpoint they enjoy the constant change in who's contending and who's not. But
maybe some of them do, depending on who you played on before. So,
but in the wider image of everything, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot of stuff happening, so we're gonna go into it. Strap in, get us some popcorn and a drink, because I think we have like 47 names, 43 names, something like that.
5 names in total. 2 of them that we won't be covering are Kenny Lawler and Andrew Harris. We have a separate video on that, so make sure you check
that up right now. We'll link it up there in the top right corner.
But there will be a few players that we will dive into a little bit, but I'm gonna just first give you the list of everyone. I'm going to give you a quick disclaimer. If I screw up names, which I will screw up names, I'm sorry. I'm not familiar with everyone. And so, yeah. But I'm just going to go through that quickly, just because we're not going to dive into everything.
If we did, we'd be here for 2 hours. And yeah, I can tell that you wouldn't want to watch that. Who would want to watch that?
And I don't think we'd want to be sticking around for this long either.
Yeah, not when there's a Jets game.
Yeah. We got Greg Ellingson signing with the Bombers. Ed Gainey signing with the Elks. Sean White signing with the Lions. Ted Laurent re-signs with the Tiger Cats. Darnell Sankey signs with the Rough Riders. Devon Coleman signs with the Red Blacks. Lucius Purifoy signs with the Lions. William Powell signs with the Red Blacks. Jagarad Davis signs with the Argonauts. Michael O'Connor signs with the Lions. Jamal Rolls re-signs with the Tiger Cats. Delvin Brew, one of the two, signs with the Lions. Derek Moncrief signs with the Rough Riders. Hergy Mayala, signs with the Lions. Sean Lemon re-signs in Calgary. Darvin Adams signs with the Red Blacks. RJ Harris re-signs with the Red Blacks. Jackson Bennett signs with the Red Blacks. Matthew Betts signs with the Lions. Stephen Richardson signs with the Lions. Daniel Peterman signs with the Lions. Richard Leonard signs with the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Mark Courts signs with the Elks. Adam Konar signs with the Elks. Toby Antigua signs with the Elks. McConna Henry signs with the Elks. Jalen Marshall signs with the Elks. Josiah St. John re-signs with the Rough Riders. Justin Lawrence signs with the Argonauts. Deshaun Amos signs with the Argonauts. Kwaku Boateng signs with the Red Blacks. Ty Cranston signs with the Red Blacks. Lorenzo Malden IV signs
what a
with
name.
the Red Blacks. I know, what a name. Ucambre Williams signs with the Red Blacks. Hunter Stewart signs with the Red Blacks. Darius Sirico signs with the Red Blacks. Levi Noel signs with the Red Blacks. Tyrus Beverett signs with the Alouettes. Avery Ellis signs with the Owls. Mike Jones signs with the Owls. Michael Wakefield signs with the Owls. And Frederick Shagnon signs with the Owls. So we have a lot of signings. Oh man,
that was beautiful.
And this is just today.
That was 4 minutes of just reading names. That was great.
I'm not surprised. Just saying. Like, I remember when the NHL had their signings where they had like almost 200 in a day, and that was like a record. And that's with like how many teams that we got there?
32 teams then.
32 teams. So in a 9-team league, this is insane.
And for day 1, and not to mention the fact that, look at the star power on that list. It's not like this is a lot of depth signing in different places. Like, these are faces of franchises, faces of the position in the league, moving around. It's been a very hectic day. Now, I got to ask you off the bat, because like we just ran a lot of names off. And I'm just going to ask it. Who won day 1?
Who won day 1? I got to give it to the Red Blacks.
Really?
Signing Darvin Adams and then securing an offensive line for Mazzoli. I mean, that is two big. That is two huge things. One of the biggest problems with the Red Blacks was that they didn't have an offensive line for Matt Nichols to work with. So they pull in Mazzoli, and then you have the question: okay, do they have anyone in front of them? Now they do. They signed 3 guys in day 1 to be the force
Staples
in front of Mazzoli, and then a receiver to throw to. So that offense for the Red Blacks has really gotten bolstered up. I mean, you get another wide receiver in RJ Harris. You get it, and then they secured, I believe, both running backs. I think they for sure got one of them. They got Jackson Bennett, and then I thought I remembered them having another.
Probably.
Or was that the Aloe? I don't know. There's so many signings, but then they have some other key pieces. Like they got a few defensive ends. They got 2 defensive ends with Kwaku Boateng and Ukambre Williams, and then they signed Ty Cranston as well. So they bolstered up their offense and defense, and it's specifically, especially on the offense, the specific places that they needed to. They really did a good job at really filling the holes that they had in their lineup. So I think we're going to see a decent Red Blacks team. I'm not saying that they're going to be by any means a team that's going to be a championship contender, but I mean, it's going to be a hell of a lot better than what we saw from the Red Blacks this past season.
Absolutely.
So I think the Red Blacks wins day 1.
For me, I think I have to go with my hometown boys in the BC Lions. I think that they had a very good day 1 based off of the other signings that they were able to do leading up to free agency. And I am very impressed with the weapons that they're giving Nathan Rourke right now. Obviously, the Lucky Whitehead extension was key and very important, and they were able to get that done. They also went out and got a couple other good, consistent wide receivers today. They brought in some line protection. I don't think they're done, but this is everything that they needed to do to move in the right direction. Obviously, they lost out on Kenny Lawler. We know that BC made a hefty offer to him, but the Elks was just too good to pass up if you're Kenny Lawler.
And the Lions are already paying a ton of money with Lucky Whitehead, so it might not be the worst thing in the world.
Honest to God, I think Lucky Whitehead's game complements Nathan Rourke better than what you would get from a Kenny Lawler. I feel like Lucky Whitehead is just more of a dynamic receiver in the sense that Lawler's a really good deep ball type of guy down the sideline, you know. But Whitehead can run any route, short yard, long yard, and be effective. So I think
he's really good. He's really good on that out wide,
exactly.
Wide running. I mean, if you've seen how the guy plays as like a kickoff or punt returner, you've seen how outstanding he is.
Perfect.
And one of the things that I feel like was really smart move by them was to go after Steven Richardson and Daniel Peterman, some underutilized talents from the Bombers, to pull over there and really put into starting positions, because I think you can see these guys really stepping up and becoming bigger players than they ever were with the Bombers, because they didn't really have the chance because the Bombers had so much in there. There were so many guys in the system that not everyone was able to play. I mean, they had a 1,000-yard receiver named Roosevelt just sitting on the sidelines. So I think it's good to pull some players that were underutilized from a team like the Bombers and really put them into starting positions.
I really agree with that too, my friend. I want to ask you then this, on the flip side of that coin, who had the worst day 1? Who didn't do enough?
I don't know. It's tricky because it's funny. If you look at it,
I know every team.
Bombers made one signing, but it was a really good one.
Very underrated signing of the day, in my opinion, based off of the money and what he's going to bring.
A 5-time 1,000-yard receiver, like I mean, if we're looking at
and a guy that has history with playing with Caleros and being successful, which is just bonus to the system.
I mean, 47 receptions, 687 yards, 1 touchdown, average almost 15 yards. Last season just alone
on a bad
Elks team.
And in only 10 games.
Yep.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more about the
you know what I love about looking at his about his stats even throughout the course of his career. So you see he's flopped around a bit. Been going with Hamilton, Ottawa, and Edmonton, but he's really consistent. It's not like he had a lot of success in one spot and then was just completely useless somewhere else. This is a guy who's diverse and will adjust to a system very well.
Like, this is a guy that up until last season on a shitty Elk teams in limited games had 5 consecutive, let me remind people, not just 5 collective, 5 consecutive years of receiving for over 1,000 yards, not just spaced out. He's been a deadly offensive weapon since basically 2015, and then even then in 2013 and 2014 he was still really good in Hamilton. So like I think it was a great signing, but like if I'm honestly looking at, I guess you could pick the Bombers from the standpoint of they didn't sign anybody new, But I, honest to
But that's
God,
not because they made the most amount of re-signings
exactly.
to bring
They
the
were
talent in before. There's not much that they had left to do.
the Bombers already were strong at every position. They just needed to reinforce what they lost. You know, they lost Kenny Lawler, they lost Andrew Harris, but you re-signed both your star backup running backs to 2-year contracts that are both Canadian, familiar with the system, only getting better in Augustine and in Oliveira. I think that everything is kind of lined up pretty well for the Bombers, regardless of them only signing one guy today.
Yep. Maybe if we're talking about a team that maybe didn't do enough, maybe the Montreal Alouettes possibly, because they did a good job bolstering up their defense. I mean, they got, let me see here, they got 2 linebackers here from as it looks. They got 2 D linemen and a defensive back, and then if I look through here, they then got a wide receiver. That's all they got for offense. I think the Alouettes really need to add more to their offense, because I think they did a good job in day one with their defense. They added some pieces that was solid. But if we're comparing it to teams like BC, and even Edmonton did quite a lot.
What I would argue about that is look at the 4 or the 3 worst teams in the CFL last year and look at their day ones compared to the other ones, right? Like the Elks, horrible season last year. Went out, made some big additions, bolstered up the team a little bit, and have started a good rebuild and are looking to be on the upswing. The Red Blacks are the exact same. The Alouettes with the other team in that conversation, right? And they didn't do enough. So I honestly would think that the Alouettes, in my opinion, are probably what they didn't do enough. Because when you're bad in the CFL, you have the opportunity in free agency to bring in players, because it's a small league. Money is basically the same almost all around for role playing and key guys, right? Like it doesn't change very much depending on like a bidding war per se on certain players. I don't think the Alouettes did enough to bolster this team. Now that being said, there's still guys available. Free agency is not even close to being done. But
rumored that they've picked up Trevor Harris.
Again, is Trevor Harris coming back with what they've already done enough to propel yourselves past the Red Blacks and from the Elks based off of just roster moves today alone? I don't think so. So if you ask me, and even then, even going to like the next team after the Alouettes, you could argue being the Lions, right? Like the Lions did really good today as well. Yep. So I just don't think the Alouettes did enough with their front office to propel themselves into that conversation where, okay, maybe we see a playoff appearance next year out of one of these teams that were bad last year.
And especially since, even though it's rumored that they signed Trevor Harris, let's assume it happens. Let's assume they do sign Trevor Harris. He's not even your starting quarterback. Vernon Adams Jr., when he gets healthy, he's your number 1 guy. Exactly. That's the guy you're going to go with. So I think if they really, and I mean, I don't think running backs is necessarily where they need to do their work. I mean, they got Stan back, he's good. But maybe, I don't know, I think you can add a little bit in the receiving core and maybe tinker with that offensive line a little bit, just retool little bits of it. And get it going, just because it's funny. The Alouettes had a really good first game this past season. I mean, they had the first bye week for themselves. They weren't playing that week, but they came out super strong, and it looked like they were, honestly, they looked stronger than the Tiger Cats when they came out.
Not to mention the final home game of the season, the Alouettes put up a good fight against the Bombers. We were both there together at that game. The Alouettes had moments where they had a strong team. They just were not consistent with injuries and other issues that plagued that team all season long with consistency problems.
Yeah.
And
I didn't see enough depth throughout the roster where it was like they had like a receiver here and a running back here, but the problem is that either like you have to have more options than that, because not only will guys get injured, teams will figure them out. And it's one of those things where, I mean, there were issues like with the Bombers, for example, where they'd play a game and somebody would figure out Kenny Lawler and they'd be like, okay, well, we got 3 other receivers we can pass to. You know what I mean? But they had that depth talent, and I don't know if Montreal has enough depth talent to really adjust the way that they will need to adjust going into this season with some of their games. And that could be the difference between winning and losing a game.
Absolutely. That really, I think I couldn't have said that any better. The Alouettes to me are just the biggest question mark in the CFL right now, because it's like, what are you trying to be? What is your identity? What is your direction?
I don't know.
I don't personally understand what their direction is. If they're retooling, rebuilding, or if they're just standing fast and seeing what happens. So they're going to be an interesting storyline to follow throughout this rest of this offseason and going into day 2 of free agency. But I have nothing else to really say on that, because that was a lot of players.
Yeah. And the only thing I have left to say, maybe, is with just because we were talking about the Bombers only making that one signing, I think the only thing they need to do is really just have a kicker lined up, because Castillo has not been re-signed. Just because I heard that apparently he was really aching to get into the NFL. Doesn't look like that's happening. So I think he may need to bite the bullet, take another year in the CFL, and really kind of prove himself to be a consistent kicker in the CFL, and then the NFL will take a look at him in another year. Probably.
Kicking is,
so
yeah,
I think
for sure.
And the Bombers should really pressure to re-sign this guy
for sure, because
we
know what this Bombers team is like without a kicker. We saw it for the first week 4, week 5, I feel like it was, before we even had a consistent kicker back there. We rotated.
Oh no, it was longer than that.
Was it long?
Like
I feel like it was
like 10 games.
Really,
it was
really
like 10 games. It was really that long
Trade
because
deadline,
we started
right?
with
Trade
Legio,
deadline,
a kicker,
right?
who's
Yes.
a punter.
Ugh,
we then threw Mortada in there for 4 games, where he had one game where he seemed like he was okay, and then the next game he can't even kick a convert. So who knows? I don't think you can stick with Legio and Mortada, especially Mortada. He didn't prove himself.
Absolutely, exactly. So I agree with that statement a lot. I think most Bombers fans would, because we saw exactly what the Bombers are like without a kicker, and it's not good. Like any team in any football, without a kicker, you're screwed, because kicking is a crucial part of football. It's ironic because you don't really use
the games by kicking.
You don't really use your foot in football, but you do need a kicker that can kick the ball still. It's funny, but either way, football like that, it's weird, but I think that is something I agree with you, that the Bombers need to go out and get a kicker. But in due time, my friend, in due time. Kickers are always available, so hopefully they just don't bite the bullet and wait too long. But yeah, I think with
pretty much covered this.
I agree with that. So with all that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let us know all your thoughts. Go recapping this day 1 of free agency. What was your favorite signing? What was your least favorite signing? Let us know all your thoughts about your favorite memories of departing players or anything like that. Go ahead and use the comment section at your own discretion. We love reading your guys' comments, so please, we'd love to hear your thoughts on this busy day in CFL football. So with all that being said, as always, make sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, check out all the affiliated links in the description below. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching this video. We hope you enjoyed it. From both me and Carter, peace, love, and positivity. As always, have a great rest of your day, and this CFL season is looking to be a good one. Bye-bye, everybody.